I will start with some short history about the Republic of North Macedonia, who ratified the Stockholm Convention 21 years ago. The initial NIP was submitted to the Stockholm Convention Secretariat in 2005, and two NIP updates were carried out in 2013-14 and 2018. Starting from autumn 2023, the UNEP-GEF project for review and update of NIP for our country has been carried out with very good support from Recetox Center hosted by the Faculty of Science, Masaryk University in Czech Republic in Brno. Their support has been extremely important in this NIP development process. Their ability to share their knowledge, their experience with each of country, but also across the country, organizing very good workshops, webinars, sharing the globally accepted and published guidelines, and also participating on webinars organized by GGKP. We are a team of 8 national experts responsible for each of POP's groups of chemicals, covering all relevant POP's chemicals listed by Stockholm Convention, POP's pesticides, industrial POP's chemicals, including PBDs and PFAS, that me and my team are working with. Unintentional POPs are also included, but also legal institutional framework, public awareness, and research and monitoring of POPs chemicals are also covered by our team of experts. As I was involved in the development of NIP 2014, focusing on PBDs, tetrapentahexaocta-bromodiphenyl ethers, and PFOS. In that time, only PFOS was covered. I could provide an overview of the main differences and updates for these two groups of chemicals, comparing with this new 2025 update process. Tier 1 and Tier 2 were applied, and these main differences were introduced. First, new POPs listed chemicals were covered. Level of analysis and type of inventory developed. Also, extended time data coverage. You will see we extended to 11 years. Data coverage. Additional sectors were analyzed. Additional harmonized system codes for import-export of POPs chemicals were collected and analyzed as well. When we are talking about PBDs and PFAS, with this NIP update, the following tasks have been implemented. I will explain the level of inventories, the review and update of inventories for PBDs and PFOS, because we already covered them in the previous one. The development of initial inventory baseline for DECA-BDE and PFOA, and the initial evaluation and baseline, country baseline regarding PFHXS, Dichloran Plus, and UV328. So, as I mentioned, for this update NIP, the data for 11 years period 2012 to 2022 was collected and analyzed. It was very intensive work for all of us as an experts, but also for our stakeholders when we asked this data from their side to submit us this kind of data. For each year, data for production, import-export, in-use products, containing PBDs, PFAS, and other POPs chemicals, stockpiles and waste generated and waste management, and contaminated sites were analyzed with more details. We use the material flows diagrams as the most appropriate tool to analyze this in use, especially for the in use and stockpiles quantities. So we extend this 11 years period much wider. For example, for vehicles and electronic equipment, we go back maybe till 2006, when they were produced or imported, because we don't have production in our country, when they were imported, and due to their lifespan, maybe they are all in use now. For example, in order to estimate the quantity of electronic equipment, we use this cumulative import data from this period, taking into account their lifespan. 11 years for large equipment, 8 years temperature exchange equipment monitors, and 5 years period for small equipment. For the vehicles, we go back 20 years, because in average 20 years is age of the vehicles that are used in our country. When we are talking about the sectors, the EE sector and VE, waste of this equipment, electrical, and transport sector were analyzed, the same as in 10 years ago. But it's very important that for the EE sector, the additional 14 custom codes, harmonized system codes, were analyzed, an additional 10 custom codes for transport sector. So it means we go now within the same sector, we cover more equipment or more type and engine capacities vehicles. When we are talking about the PFAS, because in the previous one we covered PFOS only, now in this NIP development process we cover the whole group of PFAS chemicals, and we covered the following sectors: firefighting foams, galvanization or metal plating industry, paper industry, construction, and textile sectors, synthetic carpets. The aqueous film forming foam, textile carpets, paints, and construction materials were analyzed through data for import-export from 13 harmonized system codes receiving by the Custom Office, and usage of material flow schemes as well. So the separate inventory reports were developed for PFAS chemicals with updated data for PFOS based on the previous one, and initial inventory for PFOA. Also, within all these sectors that I've mentioned, the PFHXS chemicals were analyzed, and initial calculations of import-export in-use stockpiles were calculated. And although it is an initial baseline, we succeed to find out their quantities and maybe to go in more details in the next process of NIP update. There is room for improvement. My colleagues also working with other groups of POPs chemicals have similar experience. It was really exciting experience, a lot of data, discussions with the stakeholders, exchange of ideas, data analysis, cross checks, very important, plenty of Excel sheets, review of various official documents, report, but it works. I think it works. I have my thoughts about how we start with the new POPs chemicals in this context of in compare with the previous one, because several questions were in front of us. Identification of, first, we start with the identification of sectors where the particular POPs group of chemicals was applied with these questions. Why this particular POPs group of chemical was added, or it is still adding to the products or articles that are importing in our country. Which characteristics are improved adding that POPs chemicals? Who are the global producers of that chemical, and till when this POPs chemical was added to the products and in what quantity, very important. Is this POPs chemical producing in our country, or we are importing these products? Which countries are the main exporters to Macedonia of these products? And we try to find the CAS numbers of these chemicals, and what are the harmonized system codes for group of products containing that POPs chemicals. These are the usual steps for any inventory work when you start to prepare the inventory, but these were also, we repeat our lessons from the previous POPs inventory and NIP development. It was very important and relevant for the new PFAS chemicals that we covered. Also for DECA BDE, because we add this chemical within PBD group of chemicals. It was relevant for PFHXS, Decloran Plus, and UV328. Crucial phase was identification of all stakeholders. As a team, we discuss a lot because we have the same, especially with Aleksandar, we have, and maybe with unintentional POPs experts, we have the same stakeholders. We were trying to combine our questions during preparation of the questionnaires, not to bother them too much in order to get the answers and the data and information we need. So crucial stakeholders were national institutions, Ministry of Environment and Physical Planning, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Internal Affairs, Customs Office for sure, Statistical Office, and industry. We have identified more than 200 stakeholders, really. And we worked with them through the invitation, them to our events that we organized, introduction workshop, validation and prioritization workshop, thematic working groups, and also we engage them through sending them questionnaires, meeting them, collecting this data. I would like to emphasize the importance that we have very active POPs office in our country. because they try to establish a very good relationship and cooperation with all the stakeholders in the previous period, and it was very easy to come back to them. They recognize us as a team, they trust us, and they provide relevant data, and they actively participate in the whole process of NIP development. So it is crucial, really, it is crucial for a good progress that we have on this project. What else? I think that when we got plenty of data and information from all stakeholders, we made a cross-checking and comparison of data from these multiple sources, because we try to identify the consistency and accuracy. In our case, the presence and flow of PBDs and PFAS containing products in the country with great accuracy came from the customs office, provided accurate data on the lifespan across the full 11 years period. A statistical office provides very useful information about the lifespan of these products. Also, their annual data on annual import of old and new vehicles and electric and electronic equipment, very important for this material data flow. But also we found very useful their publications related to the waste of electric and electronic equipment, about the generation and waste management, because it seems that we have this waste management, the biggest challenge for our country to deal with, especially for these two types of groups of POPs chemicals. Landfill in Skopje provide us information about the construction and demolition waste, also very important, because we cannot find it on a summarized way. Also, our waste handlers within the EPR schemes also support us with the information about the collection of the VE and old vehicles, but also the management of plastic components within all this equipment. And on that way, we know all streams within the material flow. So all these institutions, industry for sure, they provide relevant data, maybe not in the quantity that we expected from their side, but for sure all these institutions and relevant industry will be data sources for continuation of the POPs data and information for the next similar NIP exercise, I believe.
So I will start from the beginning, let's say. In order to establish sound PCB management practices, the following key elements needs to be in place: regulatory framework, institutional capacities, and technical capacities. So of course, the regulatory framework is the basis of all activities connected with the PCB management issues, and without having legal acts in place, covering the entire PCB management life cycle, like identification, packing, storage, transportation, and final disposal, there will be no significant progress towards the goal of eliminating PCBs. In Macedonia, in addition to the law on waste management, where only one article is dedicated to PCBs, A rulebook on PCB management has been developed and approved in 2007 and later on updated several times, regulating all aspects of PCB management practices, including identification, labeling, record keeping, data processing, handling, maintenance, phasing out, storage, packing, transportation, and disposal, prescribing deadlines for certain activities, like, for example, deadlines for conducting inventories, which means that the owners of the transformers or the other equipment are obliged to make an inventory up to the certain deadline. So also deadlines for temporary storage, deadlines for disposal, which means every equipment or waste that is identified to contain PCBs needs to be disposed up to a certain deadline. Also, this rule book does not prescribe only the deadlines, but also the manners and conditions to be fulfilled when performing the PCB-related activities. So with the aim, on the other hand, with the aim to ensure, with the aim of ensuring that legal acts are not just dead letters on paper, there should be proper institutional capacities developed to secure effective enforcement of the regulations. In Macedonia, like Slavjanka mentioned before, a POPs unit within the Ministry of Environment and Physical Planning, from where I am coming, has been established with a role to implement projects related to POPs issues, as well as to provide assistance, support for the stakeholders in fulfilling their obligations arising from the legislation. Moreover, State Environmental Inspectorate is very active on the field, I should say, inspecting PCB owners, evaluating their PCB management practices, the status of the PCB equipment and waste, and intervene in case non-compliance detected. So up to date, the POPs unit managed to mobilize around $6.8 million for implementing projects in different aspects of POPs management. Like I will mention a couple of them, like projects related to PCB inventory, PCB disposal, public awareness activities on PCBs, training on technical and administrative personnel on sound PCB management practices, trainings of NGOs and media on environmentally sound management with POPs, disposal of DDT, identification of obsolete pesticides, identification of POPs contaminated sites, remediation of HCH contaminated sites, and demonstrating that having specially dedicated unit for POPs issues is great advantage towards successful fulfilling of the Stockholm Convention requirements by keeping the institutional memory and expertise rather than starting from scratch and implementing some ad hoc measures. Speaking about the PCB inventory, to come to the point, it is the first and crucial stage for proper PCB management, which influences on planning of all follow-up phases. The process of identification will result in obtaining the data related to the quantity, concentration, and condition of the PCB containing equipment and waste, and the rationalization of the inventory results will provide directions, decisions on the most suitable disposal scenario for the country, whether to export, leasing, or purchasing of some technology, what kind of treatment technology, dechlorination, solvent washing, autoclaving, incineration, in what configuration should the technology be, whether mobile or stationary unit. Therefore, strict measures should be followed for the inventory results to be accurate and reliable. The inventory process in Macedonia was conducted using Tier 3 approach, meaning sampling of transformers, screening using PCB non-specific methods like colorimetric or electrochemical methods, and laboratory verification of the positive samples. With the inclusion of the energy sector, production, transmission, and distribution, as well as the bigger industrial facilities. And in order, as I mentioned before, in order to secure high validity of the inventory results, supervision of the entire process has been established, involving POPs unit and environmental inspectors joining the inventory teams. So another, let's say, useful tool is the PCB database, the software. So in 2005, a special software was developed in order to establish a contemporary and sophisticated database for PCBs in the country. The web application PCB database enables the companies and the Ministry of Environment to have permanent evidence on quantities, condition, and PCB concentration of the equipment and waste, which helps making priorities in initiating and supporting the disposal of PCBs, as well as in control and enforcement. So as a result of the inventory activities, around 1,100 tons of equipment and waste contaminated or containing PCBs have been identified in the country, out of which 964 tons of transformers, 119 tons of capacitors, and 60 tons of waste oil stored in drums. Building national technical capacities, it is very important for sound PCB disposal, is very important, and in that direction, several projects have been implemented in Macedonia as donations from bilateral cooperation and the major part from JEF. The PCB-related JEF-funded project gave possibility to Macedonia to close the PCB management cycle, meaning to enter into the final stage of disposal by the installation of the PCB treatment technology. Replacement and disposal of PCB containing equipment and waste is an expensive exercise. Such investments are mainly beyond the financial possibilities for many companies and entities. Moreover, since the JEF funds are not sufficient to cover the entire PCB disposal, we explored some other modalities like involvement of the private sector through investing of some resources based on previously explored business opportunities. In order to treat and temporarily store the PCB containing transformers and waste, within company Raden Končar Service, a state-of-the-art facility that meets the highest safety standards was built, and that was investment by the company itself. And sophisticated technology was installed for treatment of PCB containing transformers, which technology is compliance with the BAT and BEP principles. And this technology was donation by JEF. So it is non-combustion stationary PCB decontamination technology based on chemical dehalogenation, which focuses on life cycle management of transformers and their reuse after treatment. And the installation of the treatment technology in the country gives a chance for the industry possessing PCB equipment and waste to dispose it in an environmentally sound manner, as well as to avoid larger expenses in case of treatment abroad. Moreover, by the installation of the treatment technology in the country, the sustainability of the future treatments is also secured, because we are not depending neither on the export, neither on the goodwill for some, let's say, other subjects. In the established PCB temporary storage facility, the PCBs are to be centralized and gathered in a safe manner prior to their local treatment or disposal abroad. This will enable the owners to deliver their PCB waste in a licensed facility and to optimize the disposal costs compared to the individual disposal attempts. Out of 936 tons of PCB contaminated transformers identified in the country, 895 tons have been decontaminated at the Raden Končar facility, and 41 tons remains to be decontaminated, meaning that around 95% of the total identified PCB contaminated transformers have been decontaminated. But we have also 28 tons of ASCAREL transformers, or pure PCB containing transformers, that remain to be disposed of. And out of 190 tons of PCB containing capacitors identified, 89 tons have been disposed of, which means decommissioned, deinstalled, packed, temporarily stored, exported, and incinerated, and 30 tons remains to be disposed, or 75 tons from the capacitors have been disposed of. Regarding the waste oil detected, from the 16 tons, all 16 tons have been processed, decontaminated by Raden Končar facility. So as a summary, from 1,100 tons of identified PCB containing equipment and waste, around 1,000 tons have been decontaminated, disposed of, or nearly 91%, and 100 tons remain to be decontaminated or disposed, which is around 9%. But with a note that around 58 tons of the PCB containing equipment and waste that remain to be disposed of are located in industrial facilities that are in bankruptcy, which can be a serious obstacle for organization and finalization of the disposal activities for this PCB containing equipment and waste. During the original NIP preparation, low level of knowledge related to PCBs among different target groups was detected. Progress in understanding the PCB issues has been attained through organization of awareness raising campaigns and health and environmental hazards posed by POPs and by PCBs in particular, and on regulatory requirements among different target groups like government institutions, namely policymakers and enforcement structure, like customs inspectorate, then the company's managerial structure, meaning the decision makers, and workers, meaning the directly exposed groups, and through the media and NGOs, the general public, especially the vulnerable population. Having in mind the possibilities of the media and NGOs for direct contact with the general public, special attention was placed on training on the representatives of media and NGOs on POPs, on PCB issues, for encouraging proper dissemination of information while avoiding any serious concerns raised by the general public, especially when we installed the PCB treatment facility, because this facility is practically located in the middle of the residential area. Awareness raising workshops were organized and awareness raising materials prepared and distributed, like leaflets, brochures, then articles, interviews in printed and electronic media conducted on a regular basis. And moreover, a POPs website was prepared to provide the general audience with gender sensitized information on PCB health effects, on policies and regulations, and technical information and guidelines pertaining to the sound PCB management. So another aspect is the knowledge of the enforcement structure, namely the environmental inspectors is enhanced to carry out site inspections related to the evaluation of the storage conditions, associated safety and emergency response practices, equipment inspection, control of the company's records, reports, inventory books, by organization of practical trainings and preparation of specially, constructed and dedicated inspection checklists. The knowledge and working practices of the technical personnel from the transformer maintenance shop and the PCB owners have been enhanced by the development of technical guidelines and organization of practical trainings on environmentally sound management system for personnel involved in the PCB handling. Regarding all aspects for identification, decommissioning, packing, transportation, storage operations, dismantling, maintenance of PCB equipment, then human safety measures, cross-contamination, avoidance, etc. So we should take into consideration that this PCB, these transformer maintenance workshops were the main, cross-contaminators, the main polluters of transformers, having in mind that in Macedonia only, a couple of % are transformers strictly produced, intentionally produced to contain PCBs like this Ascarel or Softall transformers, like 97% were cross-contaminated, and this cross-contamination came either from the majority from the transformer maintenance, but also from the owners of the transformers due to this topping up, activities with oil with not known origin, maybe some old oil that still satisfies the technical electrical conditions, but not previously checked for PCBs. So the establishment of a proper management system based on best working practices prevents any further releases of PCBs into the environment, exposure to PCBs in workplaces, and cross-contamination of in-service transformers. Increased awareness and knowledge among different target groups resulted in changing of their attitude and behavior towards the PCB issues, which at the end point resulted in preventing, reducing, and eliminating the introduction of PCBs in the environment and consequently human exposure. These, indicators for this, comprehensive and appropriate awareness-raising campaign is the fact that majority of the equipment are subjected for inventory identification process, and also later on are subject for disposal activities. Also inspectors that conducted the site inspections, from their reports there is no evidence of some violence of the law regarding the bad working practices and releases of PCBs into the environment. So the system is practically closed. Everything is very well defined. We have regulatory framework, technical capacities, institutional capacities. And on the other hand, we are missing only some financial resources to dispose these PCBs identified in the industry in bankruptcy and also in the private smaller entities in households, etc. This will be our future target.
I would like to provide to other countries, to other colleagues, few recommendations based on our real practical experience working on this 2025 update NIP for North Macedonia. For sure, Aleksandar can add some of additional. The development of NIP with transparent, inclusive approach requires time. I think at least 2-3 years period to enable all relevant stakeholders to actively participate, in each step, data collection, validation of the inventories, prioritization of actions, development of action plans for priority objectives, and endorsement of NIP. Leave to the stakeholders more time to answer on your questionnaires that you will send to them. Be aware that they have their own tasks within the institution or business company that they are working with. You are not a priority for them, really. Be patient and provide them explanation about the process, data required, and why we need this data or information. For me, it was very important, and our team, as a team, we discuss among us, they need to know why we ask all these questions in the questionnaire. And all these questions were technically correct, lead to the information about all phases of identification and calculate data analysis later. Production, use of chemicals, where they use this chemical, do they have any stockpiles of the chemicals or products containing POPs chemicals, how they manage the waste that they generated at the facility, and a lot of questions were there. So next recommendation could be clear what you ask from the stakeholders as a data or information when sending the questionnaire. Provide them, it was very practical and successful, provide them a list with POPs chemicals and products where they could be found for easy recognition, because in their facility, for industrial facility, for example, because sometimes the procurement officer needs to provide the data, and they are economists or administrative workers, or the laboratory itself. They are surrounding with a lot of chemicals, but they need to be focused on our target chemicals with a particular CAS number. Also, don't be afraid to use various methods for data collection: phone calls, thematic group meetings, surveys, additionally to the questionnaires or questionnaires that we prepared. And accommodate your time to stakeholders' time. It's crucial. Try to establish a good professional communication with other countries who are in the process or have just finalized it. Their experience will make your work more efficient. We communicate with our colleagues from Montenegro. They provide us, we exchange some information about the CAS numbers of chemicals, target chemical, POPs chemicals, with the informations about the harmonized system codes for these targeted products or articles containing POPs chemicals. Also, try to our colleagues create and maintain a good working spirit among all involved within the NIP expert team. organize more frequently initial meetings. Our approach with experienced national experts shows positive results, as all experts are very dedicated to the project, working together and providing ideas for each of the next steps within the whole process. I will mention this material flow of quantities of produced, import, export POPs containing products in use and stockpiles, quantities of these products and waste generated, including contaminated sites, including, don't forget, the relevant lifespan of these products, and you will be sure that this approach will ensure high quality inventories and NIP document. Although your POPs chemical has different application in various sectors, let's start with 2-3 sectors maximum for the first inventory or the first update and NIP development. Expanding to other sectors or additional harmonized system codes in the next NIP update. Do not be too ambitious. Be practical. Develop a prioritization criteria and apply them to all proposed actions by all national POPs experts in order to choose maybe 10, 15 priority objectives. Invite the stakeholders to support you in prioritization exercise. Their contribution is very useful. We have had this experience. We have a long list of 72 actions proposed by all 8 experts, national experts. We conducted the prioritization sessions with the stakeholders and identified the top 15 priorities objectives. The same practice can go when you are going to develop the NIP action plans. Try to involve the stakeholders when you work on these priority objectives that define together the activities, indicators, time frame for realization, implementation of the activities, financial costs, and other needs for the proper implementation of the NIP. The stakeholders will actively provide their valuable inputs because they have experience, knowledge, expertise, and all of this will lead to high quality, realistic NIP ready to be implemented. 2 weeks ago, we completed this process with tremendous support from our stakeholders. So I wish you a nice journey and success working on POPs inventories and NIP development process in your country. Let's share our experience and our knowledge and lessons learned.